Well wishers. We're about to begin the function, so I ask that you gather, not too close to though, stay 6 feet apart from each other, keep masks on and all protocols observed. Seeing as it is a school function and an informal function really in honor of Mr. Wilbert Parks, we will assume all other formal government protocols observed. All right. So I'd like to begin today by just really expressing our gratitude and appreciation to everybody that has taken the time, especially to the media that has shown up to cover this event. This is something that is long overdue, and we are thrilled to have Mr. Wilbert Parks here with us today on this occasion so that we can celebrate him, celebrate his life. So a quick round of applause for Mr. Parks. So we call the function to order, and I'm going to ask our esteemed head of school, what's the correct term? Principal? Head of school, principal, to come and give some introductory remarks. But right before that, we're going to have Loy come and just open with some prayers first, please. Thank you.
Let us pray. Most righteous and heavenly Father, we just want to give you all the honor and all the glory that is due to your holy name. We thank you for this occasion. We thank you for the life and work of Mr. Wilbert Parks, my father, coach, or friend, or uncle, or co-worker, or teacher, husband. And just thank you, Lord, for this community of Campion College and for this alumni community that has come together to show this honor to Wilbert Parks. May everything be done in good order and that your name be honored and glorified. In the name of the Father, the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you very much. Because we're quite close in proximity to each other, I think we're gonna just kill this mic with the feedback, because we don't want to make sure that the media can get the proper correct audio. So these two are really the mics that we'll focus on, and I think everybody can hear. But when anybody is up here, we just ask that you project a little bit to ensure that we're getting the quality audio.
Yes, Coach. That's right. Member of Parliament, the Honourable Julian Robinson, who's made it clear that he's not here in any other capacity than alumnus and past cricketer this morning. All other distinguished alumni of Campion College. Miss Loy Parks, who is here physically, and her sisters, Janelle, Siobhan, and Farah, who are joining us remotely. All our dear, revered past teachers, past members of staff, and present ones. I want to acknowledge the presence of Mr. David Henry, Miss Catherine Stewart, our vice principals. Coach Brown, Coach Philpotts Brown, our friends from the media, and of course, our dear, beloved, our guest of honor, Mr. Parks. Welcome, good morning, everyone. It gives me so much joy to be here this morning and to welcome all of you to what I consider a historic moment in the life of our school. Historic because it marks the day when Campion pauses to single out for recognition, for celebration, for appreciation, one of the original shapers or architects of our school's enviable reputation, Mr. Wilbert Parks. He's an architect because he joined our community in 1967, only 7 years after its founding, when Campion was yet a private all-boys school. He lived through and worked with us through that transition to our becoming a co-educational, grant-aided institution. In all, he was a member of our academic staff for over 30 years, and even after his retirement, continued to serve as our senior cricket coach until 2014-2015. That is 47 years of service, a person's entire professional life. If that's not an architect, I don't know what is. He should raise his bat if he had it with him this morning. And he is an architect because he is single-handedly responsible for our proud legacy in schoolboy cricket in Jamaica. But most importantly, in my opinion, he is an architect because of his role in character formation in our young men. Immensely valuable were all his lessons in bowling and batting and fielding and captaining a team. But infinitely more valuable, again in my estimation, were the lessons that he imparted to our young players about the importance of discipline, of decency, of character, and the fact that he himself modeled these virtues for generations of Campionites. And so I hail the alumni who have chosen to honor Mr. Parks in this way. Well done, gentlemen. And again, I welcome all who have joined us physically here today and those remotely for the celebration of one of the architects of our great school. At a time when our nation desperately needs a model of manhood, I want to single out this gentleman who formed a women's cricket team and raised 4 daughters. That is how a real man works. Long may this ground which is to be named for him be associated with excellence in cricket, and equally long may be associated with excellence in the character that we have in Wilbery Parks. Again, thank you everyone and welcome.
Groups that have been formed. Obviously we have the formal alumni association, but as WhatsApp would go, we have these groups that have been formed, one around football. There's an annual match that takes place where Campion would go to Florida and beat up on Wolmer's in football, come back to Jamaica. Facts, right? And then we have a cricket group that has recently been formed. And so together it has formed the basis of an expanded set of actual past athletes and sports members of Campion that have been trying to figure out how can we give back to the school. One of the things that was synchronized between both groups was a contribution of sports in our character development. You heard Principal speak of it a while ago. You look at the people and the members that are in the group, and it's a lot of well-accomplished, prominent people, and one of the things that they have in common is the fact that we played sports. We played on a team, and we were a part of this amazing community called Campion College. A lot of people, we know the rhetoric, they talk about Campion being, a nerd school and pure bright people, picnic, etc. But a lot of them don't know the history and the tradition of Campion and our prowess in sports. So I'd like to invite my former coach to come to the podium and just give an overview in terms of, Campion and our history in sports and our tradition in sports. Mr. Phil Potts-Brown.
All protocols followed. Good morning. Oh, it popped out. First of all, I have to say welcome to my mentor and my former sportsmaster, that's Wilbery Parks, who we are honoring today and naming the oval and the scoreboard finally officially. So I say a grand welcome to him because he has done so much for so much of us, and myself including. Coming here as a young coach, I didn't coach at anywhere before when I came to Campion in 1984, and he was the ones who set great foundation for me to follow. What are the protocols to keep going and to maintain your head above the water when all things seem to be going apart. So another big thanks to Mr. Parks. I just can't say enough. I think we don't have enough time. If I'm to keep going, we just identify and congratulate Mr. Parks for giving such a good service to me and doing such a wonderful job to the way that I have turned out. I guess nobody would have felt that I would have been here. I would have been still here at this point. So again, thank you, Mr. Park. Just as Zachary said a while ago, a lot of people talk a lot of stuff about Campion being a nerd school and that we sports is not a part of our program. When you come here, it's the opposite. When you come, you see what we really do in terms of sport. At the present moment, we have 18 sporting disciplines that are operated here. With that 18 sporting disciplines, we have 27 coaches which control these sporting disciplines. And then when we here, it's 941 students out of the 1,400 students that do sports. So more than 2/3 of the students do sports at our school. Our tradition is not only strong. Most time when we speak about sports, people only think about track and field and football, and it's much more than that. When we look at Campion, we are dominant in swimming, lawn tennis, table tennis, and cricket, which is one of the which in terms of coming to the basketball, but in terms of cricket, was put on the map in terms of Mr. Parks being the architect and the builder of that foundation. At the present moment, we are in a golden era of basketball, where it just seems that we hardly can do any wrong there. And we are dominant in that sport at the present moment. Along that has come along with that is rugby. Even though people say we are a soft school, I keep asking people from JC, oh, I don't see you play rugby. I thought that was a sports and a rich man's sport. I don't see anybody playing rugby. So here we are dominant. We just won the 2020 Rugby League trophy, which they say is a tough man sport. So we continue to grow our sporting program. It's one of the richest sporting programs. I have no apology. Anybody can challenge me. We can go to debates and let us see where you fall in terms of the pecking order. In terms, if we come like, if anybody know about the Tour de France, we are like the Tour de France in sports. We might not win every one of them, but we are somewhere at the top. Right. If you did the overall, when you do the Tour de France, a man might only win one or two parts of it, but overall, he's dominant. Well, that's how we are in sports. We are like a Tour de France people, where we are dominant all about. So the people who said they need to come here, all the time I go out, I tell people, just come and see. When you come, you'll see cricket being played, basketball, swimming going on, lawn tennis, volleyball, table tennis up in the thing, and we have track on the outside going, and football over there. We have a full program going 24/7, 365 and a quarter days. Even in the pandemic, we have still been able to run between 8 and 10 disciplines going. I've heard of other schools not even running any at all. Even during the pandemic, we still have gotten ourselves out, and we will, God willing, be at champs once it's held. So, well, we're not sure of the date and the format, but we are hopeful of being it. So, again, welcome, Mr. Parks. Thanks for helping me to drive the program. And I set the sums on, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention my other former sports master, who that is Dorothy Hobson, another one of my mentors who took pains to make sure that the program was run accordingly. You know, she's up at, yeah, man, she's here. So again, well done, Mr. Parks. It's an honor well deserved. Took a long time, but it's here. I'm glad that you're here to see it. Thanks again.
Thank you very much. So, the next gentleman that I'm going to call to the podium, I have a little story to tell you about him first. Yeah, that's a little short story, right? So, they call him Big Pace, right? A couple of years older than me. We were training right on the pitch right there one day. And I was in second form. I think Julian would have been in fourth form, right? So at the time I was captain of the under 14 side, and we're having a mixed training. So runs up to bowl to me, and I say, you know what? Tired of this Big Pace, Big Pace. Who is this brother them calling Big Pace? What is the big deal? Set up for him, right? Big bouncer came and I went to hook him. Ball came off the top edge of my bat, clapped me in my eye, knocked me out on the ground, and I ended up going to the hospital and fracturing this facial bone right here. I wore a patch to school. And after that, I understood what Big Pace was all about. I never question it again. So my friend, my colleague, Mr. Julian Robinson, for the citation for Mr. Parks.
Thank you very much, Zachary. Let me acknowledge our principal, Mrs. Baston, and I'm so happy to see so many of the teachers who were there in my time. I hope I don't get in trouble, but I see Mrs. Newville, I see Mrs. Campbell, persons who would have dedicated maybe 40 years or more to Campion College. So I want to thank them as well for their service. To my colleagues, the former cricketers who ensure that we put on this function together, the members of the media, and all other well-wishers. I was thinking of the best way in which to acknowledge Mr. Parks' contribution, and I did a citation. And in my rush to get here this morning, I didn't print it, so I'm going to rely on my phone to read it from my phone. And the citation is, whereas Wilbert Hamilton Parks joined the staff of Campion College in 1967 as a geography and integrated science teacher. And whereas in 1985, he was appointed as head of the physical education department at Campion, a position which he held until his retirement in the year 2000. And whereas he coached the school's cricket teams and led these various teams to 16 championship victories. And whereas the zenith of his achievement was that the school emerged victorious in the Sunlight Cup in 1987, 1988, and 2015. And I know it's called differently now, but the Sunlight Cup was the premier competition for schoolboy cricketers. And it's now called the Grey Shield. And the Tapping Cup in 1989, which was the limited overs competition. And whereas in 1988, he coached the Campion College cricket teams that won the Sunlight, the Coles, and the under-14 competitions, all in that year. And whereas Mr. Parks has coached and produced a number of players who have represented Jamaica at the under-19 level, the senior level, and the West Indies level. And when I said this to somebody from North Street, they questioned me. We have Campionites who play for the West Indies, yes. There's a youngster named Brandon King who came to Campion, who is a West Indies cricketer and who was coached by Mr. Parks. And we have here, and it would be remiss if I do acknowledge, we have Larry here, we have Megs, both of whom would have represented Jamaica at the under-19 level. I know in football as well. And West Indies too. Just, okay, Jamaica at the under-19 level. And whereas Mr. Parks coached and produced a number of players, and whereas Mr. Parks coached the national senior women's cricket team from 1999 to 2005. And whereas Mr. Parks in 2000 founded the Newbery women's cricket team, which has since won the senior league 3 times and produced 6 players for the national team and 1 player for the West Indies women's team. And whereas Mr. Parks coached the Jamaica Defence Force team, which won the Neil and Massey limited overs competition. And whereas on being certified a track umpire in 1971, Mr. Parks has officiated at the Boys and Girls Championship and other major athletic championships from 1971 to the year 2000. And whereas Mr. Parks, as a self-taught journalist, has served a number of media organizations, including the RGR Group and the Jamaica Observer, and there are some other groups that are no longer in existence, for over 30 years in the area of sport. And whereas a grateful nation has recognized his contribution to sport with the national honor of the Order of Distinction Officer Class in the year 2013. And whereas Mr. Parks has single-handedly raised 4 daughters after the death of his wife in 1985, all of whom are successful in their fields of endeavors. And whereas Mr. Parks has been a mentor, a guide, a friend to scores of Campion College cricketers and alumni, and whereas many of us attribute our success in life, both on and off the field, to his guidance, his tutelage, and his admonition to play straight. Acknowledging his outstanding contribution to the development of cricket at Campion, acknowledging his outstanding contribution to the game of cricket in Jamaica, acknowledging his outstanding contribution to his country and to humanity as a teacher, coach, and friend. Be it resolved that on this day, April 16th, 2021, the Campion College cricket field be officially named the Wilbery Parks Oval. And I'm going to ask Larry and Zachary if they could just bring and unveil that for me. Open it for me, please. And we made 128 for 8. And that represented the first time in the history of Campion that we had won at a senior level. Repeated, where we won the Sunlight Cup, this time against St. Jago. We broke the record we made in 87 by making 422 in 88. At that time, Carlton Carter made 125 not out. He was batting at number 7, and he shared in a last wicket partnership of 110 with Bugadi. And Bugadi only made 9 out of the 110. Only 9. So Carter made 125 not out. Came back and took 9 for 46. I don't think there's any other single all-round performance in the history of schoolboy cricket as significant as Carter's performance, who went on to play for Jamaica at age 15, the senior team at age 15, and was a phenomenal both cricket and football, and eventually went away and got a football scholarship. But the significance to me of Mr. Park's contribution is that it put Campion on the map in what I would call the traditional sports. And it made us proud as Campionites to be able to stand out and say, and I've said this many times, there is no other school in the corporate area that won more trophies than Campion in the mid-1980s in cricket. None other. And every time I say it, some KC man take me on. 87 Sunlight, 88 Sunlight. We lost in the finals 89, and I'll tell you why. I won't say publicly why we lost. We won Tapping Cup 89. We won, and I know the ones because I'm talking about the teams I played on. We won under 14, 83, 84, 84, 85. We lost 86 at Sabina Park to KC. I wasn't there 87, but we won 87, we won 88. We won Coles 85, 86. We lost 87 to Wolmer's at Melbourne. We won 88, 89. Those are the ones I know about. But if you tabulate it, you cannot find another school who has won more trophies in that period of the 80s in cricket than Campion College. And that is attributed to Mr. Wilbery Parks. So when we boast of the academic achievements, and Campion is the #1 school in Jamaica academically, we have a rich sporting history that not many people know or acknowledge. And certainly for cricket, Mr. Wilbery Parks is responsible for that. So thank you again, Mr. Parks. We want to move.
Going back again, Zachary.
Yeah. Much for that, Julian. I hope everybody can really get a true sense and appreciation of the contribution of this great man here beside me. I saw Julian getting a little bit emotional, and I was trying to hold up myself, so I'm very proud of you for holding it also. But it just goes to show the impact that one person can have on the lives of so many people, right? And we really want to just, we can't say thank you enough, Mr. Parks, but you have truly impacted our lives in ways that have made us better people, better young men and better people. So we really appreciate that. We're going to move now to the unveiling of the scoreboard. We want to ask the media to go and get set up. We don't want Mr. Parks in the sun. So once we have everything set up, then we'll wheel him over there.
Hello everyone, I must say thank you very much. There.
Is this okay, or you want to put on the other side?
Make sure you what you want to do.
Go ahead, sir.
Repeat. I must say thank you to everyone. I recognize the fact that you appreciate what I've done for you. I didn't know that I would record. So many people would think that I did so much for them. But I did it from my heart. When I came here in 1967, there were 25 students in the class, and all the buildings were named. Waters Hall, Father Kohler Building, that was all. And over there, that all there was the boarding school. At that time, boarding school was the order of the day. And Campion boys did not work as how they work now. They were orderly. When they came to school, I'm from that time, remember? It was a time of bicycles. And those who came early in 76 would see a bicycle shed down the bottom. Oh, yes. They would either ride bicycle to school or walk to school. I was living about 400 yards from here, so I walked to school. And there was a time when they had to send a bus for them and pick them up because the JOS bus had a strike. So I had no problem walking up in 10 minutes. At that time, the school was built on a visionary objective. As you enter the school, you see clean schoolyard, and nobody liked to see dirty schoolyard. In front of the place between Corley building and the other building over there was Waters Hall, and it was grass and clean. I think there is a big palm tree there now, where Julian on one Saturday hit a ball straight to the root of the tree. That time he was batting in the middle. But we did not have the field like this. We had to form long barriers, and we had to, if the ball beat us, we had to cover it with another person. This does not happen these days. Behind my success was a number of people. We had the groundsman, Mr. Green. And you can't be successful without good staff. And Mr. Green was instrumental in the pitch and the outfield. I tell you how Mr. Green came. I was as usual, covering Senior Cup cricket for Radio Jamaica. And I went to camp, and I saw a man named Mr. Darby. And a friend said to me, ask Mr. Darby if he knows anybody. I went and asked him. He said, yes, I know a man out Central Village. He doesn't have a job, he wants a job, but he's a cabinet maker. So you can't turn a cabinet maker into a groundsman. I said, Mr. Darby, we want a groundsman desperately. I will show him how to do it. Mr. Parks, do you know about pitch? And I smiled. And he sent and told him. And next Monday he came up. He came up on the Tuesday. And when he came up, he saw me in the yard. So I took him to the principal then. And I said, this is the man who I got for groundsman. And the principal was Mr. Mackay. Mr. Mackay said to him, where are you from? He said he was from Central Village near Spanish Town. And he said, if you were changed, I would let you start today. So come tomorrow. He said to Mr. Mackay, I have my clothes here, sir. So Mr. Mackay said, all right, go carry him to the change room. And he said to me, the man will want the work. And Mr. Green came as a cabinet maker. I didn't know how to do the job. And from day to day, I showed him, and he improved. And I have to give credit to Mr. Green, because he was my main man who got that pitch ready. And then we played on a pitch which we used to, because the pitch is prepared for practice, and the same pitch is prepared for match. So you have an even bounce. And that's why the boys, the players, usually play straight. That you cannot beat Larry Crichton for. And Vivian Salesman. If you put one person at mid-off and one person at cover, and if you're fast like Lucien Bolt, he will stay serious with the cover and get runs. But after that, after Granting Aid, we saw where different children coming, and we have different modes. We had that 3-story building there, which is not named, and don't ask me why it is not named, because all the other buildings in Campion have names. Everybody knows the auditorium there, which is anybody know the name of auditorium building?
Linda Hall.
Linda Hall. And how did it come? It came through sports. Basil Linda was he was a swimmer. He was water polo captain. And the girls had swimming championship that day. Carrie Ann played and swim on the team. And we won. Campion won. They asked the principal if they could have a party. They had the party, I don't know where. They invited me, but I didn't go, because my children were at home, and I didn't have a wife. Then, thank God I have a wife now who did not celebrate with me that. Show your handle so they can know who you are. And she know what is that. Yeah. Yes. So when we had Granting Aid, it changed from 25 to 30. The ministry, I heard, wanted 40 students to be in a room. And this administration said, no, we can't have 40 students in a room. And if you go down there, the 3-story building, you'll see fans in them. And if you go to other schools which are made like that, you don't see anything in there. They are hot like an oven. But my wife couldn't bake in it. She's a good baker. And you all know that. Some of you know. So we gathered from there. 1976 we became granted A, and we move on from there. Not to believe that in 1969, we got the first Jamaica scholarship. Steve Blake the first. I thought Steve Blake in first form, he came first. Went to second form, he came first. Went to third form, he came first. He was with Rennie Phillips, you might know Rennie Phillips, his brother. And then Father, after of the day, I suppose he thought with his committee that Stephen Blake should go into fourth form. So after third form, he spent 1 term in second form. And then he went to fourth form. At that time, Father Rafstris came to me the week and said, I am going to teach fourth form biology because I see biology on my resume. Because Mrs. Dunbar Miller went on leave. I said to Mr. Father, where is the syllabus? He said, he doesn't have a syllabus. I went to the class and said, do you have a syllabus? No, sir. So I realized they were backwards in the syllabus, and I took them to, they passed over to fifth form. And then Steve Blake was there. He was in 4-5, and he came first. And he took the GC at that time, and he got the Jamaica scholarship in 79. So that was the first high point for Campion in academics. Stephen Blake the first. There was a second Stephen Blake which played track. Now back to our point of cricket. I had a staff which supported me. I had the ground staff of Mr. And he reached here every morning. He was living in Barbican. And he reached here every morning before working time. Then afterwards, he came over to this house when it was empty to live. And he worked on the field, he worked on the pitch, sometimes in the hot sun, and then I, not blowing my trumpet, but sometimes I would go and buy a drink and carry and give him. And those of you who are old enough will say, you know that old people say, what? That is an achievement for him. If you don't help your workers, they won't help you. So I was there. Mr. Green was the man who helped me in that respect. And then later on, I had 2 women who came. Miss Paulette Haig Fairweather now, and Miss Janet Johnson. And they helped me because we had meetings, and they, if I suggest something, they would say, no, Mr. P, do it that way. They were in charge of netball. Do it that way. And Miss Johnson would say, we have to do it this way because that and that and that. And we did it, and we were successful. So I work around many visionaries. Visionaries of staff, administration, co-workers, and my daughters at home, because I had no wife then. I'll give you one day we played a match here. And my fourth daughter, Farah, some of you know Farah. Yes, if the media would listen out. We had a match here, and we batted first. I don't remember what we made, but I just give you a score. Let's say 185. And when I went home, she said, "Daddy, who won the match?" She was going to Officer Primary then. She was 4 years old. And I told her. And she said, "You could declare at 184 then." I said, "No." "Yes, Daddy, because that is one run more." And I looked at her and smiled. And I said, "This is not how cricket played. Cricket played, you have to convince the person that he cannot make the runs. If you bat first, you make a big score. You cannot make the runs. And if you bat second, you make the score." Said, "Why you have to bat first when you win the match?" I said, "We batted a better pitch. But the pitch does not move when it played the second time." I said, "No, the pitch is prepared, well prepared by Mr. Green." And she didn't say anything. So I thank you for having this function for me. As you know, I'm in a wheelchair, and I have to give thanks to my wife who joined me after the celebration of cricket. She has a team in terms of taking care of me at home. They made a good job waking me up this morning because I am coming out. I usually get up at 10:30 or that. And thanks to them, she has a good team there. Miss Jackson, she's a physiotherapy. Miss Claire, she's a domestic worker. And we have other people such as a doctor who came. We have a nurse who came. So again, thanks to you all.
Everybody want part of the plan. Ready? Top part is the hard part. Let's have a pull. Let's have a pull. All right. On three. Yeah. Three. Woo! Bobby, you blocking him here. Yes. You blocking him. I look straight ahead, everyone.